So just real quick, let me do introductions and some community news first, and then I'm going to quickly turn it over to Mike Salimi. He's going to be doing an overview of Anypoint Partner Manager today and a demo. Mike, of course, is the Principal Client Solutions Engineer from Mulesoft, and he always has some great topics and great presentations for us. And then once he's done, I'm going to do some Kinesis Data Stream Connector discussion. We're not going to go extremely deep, but we will streaming, and we'll look at the actual Kinesis Connector and how to actually connect to a demo of that. And then it's prizes and networking time. So I don't know how much networking time you can do on a virtual call, but you know, hopefully at some point we'll be back in person. So the first thing to bring up to everybody, I'm sure everybody on this call knows this, but the Mulesoft Connect conference is coming up. It will be in 2 weeks. Just over 2 weeks. It's being held on Tuesday, May 18th, from basically 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Central Time. So if you haven't registered, definitely go out there and register. If one of these other times works better for you, we have there's going to be a Australia, New Zealand time, and East. And then a time for Europe, Europe and Middle East areas. It's going to be a great show. If you guys are linked in with Mike Salimi, you know, one of the things he's been sharing are some of the different some of the different sessions that they're going to be hosting this year in Connect, and there's a lot of great information there. A couple of things to note about it: it's virtual this year. Once again, like last year, it is free. And so all you have to do is register, and you can show up and see these great events and great topics.
Yeah. And if I can add, so I can add that there's a few tracks. So there's a track for business focused or technical newcomer to MuleSoft, or technical experienced around MuleSoft. So there's several tracks. Be sure and pick one. Also, you can, with the video link, watch some of the other tracks afterwards. And if you invite some of your peers or friends or colleagues, help them make sure they get into the right track too. So just wanted to be sure y'all know about it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That's great. Once you get out there and you register, you'll be able to see a lot of that stuff. Okay. So let me go on here and talk about kind of the trivia that we're going to be doing. The same rules kind of apply that we've mentioned before. We're going to give away one voucher today, and then another one on Saturday and another one on Monday, just to kind of make sure that we're spreading this out. We're going to do it a couple of different ways. We're going to ask several trivia questions, and we'll put all of the winners' names on a wheel and spin it, and kind of allow fate to determine somewhat the winner of this, but it'll let more people participate in answering the questions. So if you could grab a phone, grab your phone, grab another browser tab, and go to menti.com and enter the code 69272769. And what I'm going to do right now is to start that up. So give me just a second on this. And well, here we go. All right. Okay, here we go, and we've already got an answer here. So where are you dialing in from? Who's we've got a St. Louis. You know, in a virtual event, sorry, in a live event, it's really easy to tell whenever Houston at at the bar or in the office, we know you're from you at least live in the Houston area. So we just thought it'd be really interesting, given that we're virtual and hosting this this meeting virtually, just to kind of get an idea of where all around the world that we are seeing folks. So we've got some Houston folks, it looks like, but we've got some Birmingham. Okay, this is great. It looks like we've got people from all across the world joining us today. Denver and St. Louis, Toronto. That's fantastic. Cyprus. Okay, that's just right outside of you. Is that you, Mike?
No, that wasn't me. I put Houston there, so there's another
Okay.
Cyprus person.
It's me, Jim.
All right.
I'm very specific.
Okay. Sorry, Matt. I totally missed that. Okay. Cool. So let's see, Pune. All right. Fantastic. Let's let me move on to the next slide. Dallas. All right. Oh, hey, does that mean that DP has joined? Let me see. I don't see him on the list. All right. So we've got maybe a couple of people from Birmingham. I don't know how. Anyway. All right. We'll just move on to the next slide. Here we go. Do we have any new Mulesoft certifications? One of the things we like to do in these meetups is to kind of celebrate the new Mulesoft certification. So any certifications, I know we're sitting here in April and late April, but we'll just count everybody in 2021. So we've got, all right, look at this. We've got three Mule 4 developers, and we've got some that are studying, Mike. So this is great. So one note to make about certifications is if you already have a certification and it is close to expiring, the certification is only available for 2 years, or is only valid for 2 years. There is a new refresher quiz that you can take. It's a refresher certification. That really makes it a lot easier to maintain your certifications. So definitely want to check that out if you notice that your certification is very close to expiring. But this is fantastic. We've got 7, Mike. We've got 7 Mule 4 developers this year that have been certified. So that's great.
Yeah, that's really outstanding to see too. And just FYI. I recently did some of those recertification exams and recertified on developer and platform architect. So there are fewer questions. There's only around 20 or 25 questions on them. They're good questions in terms of show up prepared. However, not as many questions. So a little easier to do. Happy to answer any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn if you have any questions, and let me know how I can help you get prepared for either research or certification anytime. Cool.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. All right, so let's see. We've got about 47% of us on the call here have done this. So let me see if I can navigate. This is not working really well. I don't know if it's my network, but okay. So question 1 of 1. I had to do a question because I ran out of the ability to include survey slides. So the question is, answer fast to get more points. All right. Who's planning to attend Connect 2021? Let's see. There's only 2 correct answers here. And I've got 5 seconds to get your answer in. And let's see. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so it looks like we've got folks registering, we've got folks registered, and a couple of folks that aren't going to be able to make it. All right, cool. That's kind of the kind of the housekeeping that we've got. I want to turn the presentation over to Mike. Mike, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Mike is going to talk about Partner Manager. So thank you guys for answering those fun questions. Just kind of helps us get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. Really good, Jim. Thank you. Jim, all good. All right, so I've shared my screen, and you should all see now a title screen that says Anypoint Partner Manager. Let me know you can. Jim, do you see the
I
screen
see it,
yet?
Mike.
Okay, good. Okay. So again, yeah, my name is Mike or Michael Salimi either. Feel free to reach out via LinkedIn anytime if you have any questions. For today, I wanted to share with you about what's new around Partner Manager. So our most current version is now 2.6.1. So Partner Manager, I'm going to tell you what Partner Manager is and how it's part of our platform for B2B as well as partner management. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I'm going to spend about 15 minutes and we're going to go through some product capabilities. These are capabilities that exist today. However, just want to be sure that you're aware that you make any purchasing decisions for yourself or your client based upon readily available features and product like Partner Manager 2.6.1. All right, so we're going to spend about 15 minutes going through just a few slides and then another 15 minutes and we'll look at a demonstration of Partner Manager. Just so we have some good expectations and any questions that you have, we'll have around 10 minutes after the demonstration and we can talk about any questions you have at that point. All right, very good. And then there will be a few questions at the conclusion that if you answer these questions that we have for you based on what you're about to see, you will be eligible for the prize. So I may say something like this next slide, it could be important. Anyway, most of you are familiar with Anypoint Platform. So Anypoint Platform is a great platform, single product for all types of integration use cases. And the specific use case that I'm telling you about is our B2B capabilities. So, and partner management capability. This works within the Anypoint platform that you're familiar with. All right, so Anypoint platform for B2B. We have quite a few customers that have leveraged Anypoint for B2B. And based upon all these conversations with the customers that we have, there's been some activity going on in the B2B space that there's an increasing volume of trading partners for some of our customers. They're seeing the need to bring on a new business partner, a new trading partner with B2B, and that takes a degree of time to set those up. In fact, some of my customers, they spend weeks just getting a partner onboarded into their B2B environment. And so they asked if we could help them with some capabilities. And so our product team looked at that, and there's some other factors too, like time-changing partner configurations can be labor-intensive. So if a partner has a specific specification that needs to change, that could be a challenge. The EDI solutions can be quite expensive. I don't know if you've looked at them. There's a lot of solutions from a lot of large name vendors, and they're not cheap. So they're looking for an economical, capacity-based solution. And you know, Anypoint is a capacity-priced-based cloud service, iPaaS type service. There's a changing in the compliance standards for electronic exchange of information. And so regulations around certain industries are causing organizations to need to modernize how they exchange B2B transactions. There's a need to connect B2B and EDI with APIs. So what's the right solution for taking a 40-year-old technology, an EDI type technology, and having that work with some of these modern data exchange APIs we know that Anypoint is so great at. So how do we make these all work together? And then how is that done in a way that it's a modern platform, a cloud-based platform? Some of the legacy B2B solutions are all infrastructure-based and require quite a degree of software maintenance and software upgrades, where, you know, Anypoint is a cloud-based service, and Anypoint is able to scale at a cloud scale and easier to maintain than some of the legacy point-to-point EDI B2B type solutions. So all those factors are going in, and they're causing some of our customers to want to find a better solution than what they're other legacy typical B2B solutions are. And so because of that, we're seeing a lot of change in the space where B2B interactions are moving towards an API where customers will want to connect to their partners and other customers through an API framework. However, we see because of EDI is such a standard that's been around for quite some time, and there's a lot of support for it, that EDI will continue to be a standard for electronic business exchange. So we're seeing our customers want to be able to have these work well together. What is the right way for a complementary coexistence of both B2B and EDI? And so, Anypoint is great at APIs, and we now have EDI capability and have for a while. How can we make some of it even easier? So some of the capabilities we have around B2B, we have for a while, we support X12, a standard broadly across the North America space for document-based electronic exchange, and Edifact, typically seen around the European area. There's other formats we support, HL7, that's a healthcare space EDI exchange, Tradecoms and RosettaNet as well. We have connectivity for. We've had this capability for quite some time to support multiple transports and exchanges that you see here for exchanging those types of formats. And these are all used in different, these are all done and worked with in different combinations across different industries. So we have solutions and customers in retail and healthcare, manufacturing, insurance, transportation, and logistics already today leveraging these capabilities for B2B EDI exchange. All right. A typical B2B exchange, if you're new to the space, is a business, a purchaser, or a buyer would create an electronic order and transmit that electronic order maybe over HTTPS or AS2 or SFTP or other types of transmissions. And the receiver would receive that purchase order, right, via an EDI exchange. And then with that purchase order, process that, say, for example, with Anypoint, and to be able to put the purchase order into a back-end ERP. So that's the typical type of pipeline of EDI B2B that Mulesoft and Anypoint has supported for quite some time now. What's new is we make it easier. We're making it easier to create these business partnership flow connections, to add new business partners. So that's what's changing. However, this capability is what we've had, and we have connectors and capability and support for quite some time. So Anypoint Partner Manager is the part of that pipeline that we just saw where the business partners are connected and configured. The reason we did this is because our customers who use Anypoint for B2B exchange want to be able to accelerate how rapidly partners can be brought on board into the configuration, and how easy we can make it to help configure or manage partner management within a framework like API led, where the B2B message exchange works with standard B2B transports and formats we're familiar with, as well as work within a API-led connectivity integration architecture, so that there's a future-proof integration architecture in place. So they want to be able to our customers want to be able to further streamline partner onboarding and simplification of partner management. Right? And so what we've built out over these past few years is Partner Manager capability to be able to integrate with a low code or a no code configuration based UI. So we can accelerate partner onboarding because creating a partner data exchange is as simple as a configuration based steps that we'll look at. And so in addition to streamlining the process of partner onboarding, the product also, Partner Manager also provides end-to-end visibility of activity. So you can see app performance logs, and business metrics in real time. So we've made it a low-code type of configuration for partner onboarding, and it leverages the power of API-led connectivity for your integration, or with the integration landscape that you have. And that's the essence of what Anypoint Partner Manager aims to do. So let's look at a sample reference architecture. So here we see a classic API-led connectivity 3-layered architecture. We have an experience layer, we have process, and we have systems for backend system connectivity. And this is how Partner Manager fits within an existing API-led landscape. So Partner Manager is represented by that rectangle, and then these represent the partner-specific configurations that you may have set up, and any type of message and transport flows that are supported for that particular partner. And then these would connect into the existing APIs that you have within your integration landscape. So Anypoint Partner Manager would connect into with the routes that you already have, say if SAP was the backend order processing system that you have. All right, and this works alongside what you already have. So if you have an e-commerce website and you receive orders via the e-commerce website, those orders would flow in through your process layer for purchase order and invoice through an e-commerce. And then for your electronic data exchange, those would flow in through Partner Manager, and then just connect to the existing process level endpoints that you already have in place or you plan to build. So this way that you have the best of both worlds in that regard. And if you have some partners that evolve their purchasing and purchase with APIs, you already have an API capability made available that they can switch to, or you can keep supporting with EDI, which we think will be around for quite a while. All right. Now, let's see. Let's take a look under the hood of what is in the Partner Manager architecture. So you know already that Partner Manager is built on top of Anypoint, right? So this runs with the Mule runtime, flows and maps. Our mapping is done with data weave. We have the ability to support already for quite a while different types of message types, different formats and protocols, right? So that's been around with the existing platform. What's new with Partner Manager is we've made the flow configuration a low-code, no-code configuration-based process. So we have a flow processing engine now that's in Partner Manager. Anypoint Partner Manager has a graphical-based partner on board that you'll see in the demonstration. There's a graphical-based transaction management where the flows for the different message transaction flows are set up. Then there's an error handling capability such that we can look at the activity, see what it is that's failed, what that might need attention. We have ability to trace quite a degree of activity through history across any of the transactions. All the configurations are done in a declarative sort of no-code way where parts can be endpoints and objects can be reusable across different message types and formats. Then there's an administration, so you can set the appropriate credentials for who can create and change these. And of course, this is all built out and it's integrated in with Anypoint and runs with Anypoint. So those are the major components of what's inside Partner Manager. So next, I want to walk you through some of the message flows that you can build. All right, so if I'm going to connect a partner to a backend system, there's a series of 5 steps that goes through, right? There's a description of what endpoint that partner is going to send that message, what types of message types what are the message types that are accepted, and then they can get parsed and validated. Is there need to be some sort of transformation? If that shows up as an 850, does that get transformed, say, to a JSON or an XML, or to other types of data transformations? What type of validation is done on that schema, and then target to the particular endpoint. So that would be an inbound message flow. An outbound message flow is is just the same, just sort of flips it around, right? So the backend system then would have a message, transform that into a certain outbound, maybe an 855, any validation or processing, and then it's pushed outbound to the outbound trading partner. All right, so that's the flows itself. Next, I want to show what the scenario is for the demonstration, and we'll spend the next 15 minutes going through a demonstration of Partner Manager. All right, so the scenario that we're going to look at within the demonstration is between a buyer and a supplier, right? Where we have a retailer who purchases from a supplier, and the supplier receives those purchase orders and then fulfills those purchase orders for the retailer who buys them, right? So this is done through a series of 850s or an 850 purchase order. So an 850 purchase order is created by the retailer because that retailer's backend system created a purchase order. Now, that purchase order in that backend system may be an XML purchase order that would then get converted to a 850 standard message type that'd be transported via AS2. That would be then shipped to Mythical Supplier's Partner Manager, who receives the 850, and then Partner Manager then transforms the 850 into a JSON message, a JSON document that is received by the supplier and then processed through the Process API and System API and received in the backend ERP at the supplier itself, who receives that JSON. That supplier then would generate a 997 acknowledgement at Partner Manager that then acknowledges the receipt of that. Upon acknowledgement within the ERP system, a PO acknowledgement is then transformed by Partner Manager into an 855. That 855 message type is then shipped to the endpoint of the NTO retailer, who receives that 855, correlates to that back to the original 850 purchase order, and then transforms it into the XML structure for the retailer's back end. So this scenario, there's a series of 4 steps that we're going to look at next within Partner Manager, and how our Partner Manager creates the scenario for you with a low-code configuration-based interface. All right, so we're going to look at that next. So I'm going to switch over to Partner Manager, and this is our Partner Manager home screen for NTO retailer. This works within the Anypoint the Anypoint site. So right now with Anypoint Partner Manager for NTO retailer, I can set up my home screen, certificates, endpoints, message types that are supported. I can specify the partners that myself, the retailer, has and does business with. I have business interactions with Mythical Supplier. If I'm going to add a new supplier, I just select new partner. Let's take a look at what we have specified for the Mythical Supplier. The identifiers, the certificates, the endpoints for the supplier are listed, as well as validation and acknowledgement for any receipt of information from the supplier or any information that's sent to the supplier. So let's take a look at information that's sent to the supplier. There's authorization, there's character set and separation, or character set and separators that we might want to specify. Here at the general tab, you can see that we can enforce length limits per the X12 message standards. That's unchecked for now because we're going to, as part of the demonstration, we're going to post a message out that exceeds those links, and we'll watch how that handles that. So that's how that's done on the side there. And so that's the partner setup. Now there's 2 flows that are set up to be able to push 850s to the supplier. So this flow that you see is pushes an 850 to Mythical Supplier. Let's take a look at it. And this is the configuration, or these are the configurations for pushing the flow, or pushing that 850 to a supplier. So at the Partner Manager itself, we just specified what the endpoint is. We have an XSL, XSD, that is, an XSD for the inbound message type. Then we have a map a data weave map that converts the XML message type to an 850. And then that 850 then is transported to a particular endpoint with these identifiers and settings that you saw previously. We can override those settings in terms of character set identifiers and such. We can override those here, or we can take those defaults. And then that's the endpoint that 850 is going to get sent to Mythical Supplier, right? And so that is the steps for that outbound flow. And so the outbound flow, that's what we just looked at. Now we're going to look at the supplier that receives that 850 and see how its partner manager is configured. So Mythical Supplier, again, has its own identifier certificates and endpoints and message types. Its partner at the supplier side is NTO Retailer. NTO Retailer certainly has its identifier certificates, endpoints, as well as validation acknowledgement from whatever it receives from the supplier, or from the retailer, that is. And then the retailer would send that, and then the supplier would send to the retailer with those acknowledgements. And then the flows itself. So there's two flows in here. There's the receipt of the 850 from the retailer. So let's look at it. So the supplier then would receive an 850 from the retailer. It would receive it over AS2. It would receive it at that specific endpoint that can be specified, and endpoints and object message types can be reused across multiple flows. And then it would transform that 850 with this map into a JSON object. So this is a data weave map that transforms that 850 to a JSON object that then gets put into the supplier's backend ERP. So what we just looked at there were two flows. And so just let me walk you through that. We looked through the retailer's flow of the transformation of an XML to a 850, and then we looked at the supplier's receipt of the 850, and then transformation into a JSON with a map, and then post into the system layer that's going to go into the ERP. So that's what we looked at in Partner Manager, those two. Now we're going to look at the round trip back, the 855 acknowledgement. So the 850 then has been received, and now what's after the ERP at the supplier receives that 850, then that's going to get acknowledged in the backend ERP, and then an 855 will be generated after the supplier's backend ERP creates an acknowledgement, a JSON object. So that backend ERP would then on this endpoint notify that acknowledgement is created. This then converts that JSON to a 855, and then 855 message type is then sent out to the retailer on that retailer's endpoint. Okay, and then the last thing that happens in the configuration is the retailer receives that 855 acknowledgement from the supplier's partner manager, right? So that's the last step. So the 855 receipt from the supplier, a similar type flow received from the supplier at that particular endpoint with that message type as an 855. Then this map converts the 855 to an XML document and then pushes that into the buyer's ERP, right? So that's the classic 850 purchase order acknowledgement type of exchange. So what we see here is the retailer, and we saw how Partner Manager has configured each of those message flows at both sides. So what I'm going to show next is I'm going to have an ERP simulated XML document created that's going to then be received by Partner Manager, moved and transported to the supplier. The supplier will acknowledge that and will generate an ACK as well as an 855 PO ACK that will then get pushed to the endpoint at the retailer that can then be converted back into the backend ERP there. So you're going to see that happen next. So I'm going to push a message through that configuration we just looked at. Now, okay, so the way that I'm going to do that is I have an endpoint here that the outbound POs get pushed to, and I have an XML document that represents a purchase order with several items. And so this is the purchase order that I'm going to push through. So we'll call that purchase order, we'll call it purchase order 13. and then I'm going to press send. And what that did just there is that posted that request to that endpoint, and you see that that endpoint received it, accepted it, and responded OK 202. So Partner Manager just received it, and so that was done from the retailer side. So I'm going to look at the activity screen, and then we can see at the activity screen just now at 12:09 p.m. and that's 12:09 Central Time, that a 850 message was sent to Mythical Supplier. So now let's take a look at the Mythical Supplier side. So switch to the supplier side, and we'll see that on the activity view that Partner Manager, it received a 850 message type from NTO retailer. And if I view this, we can see what the payload is, what was received. We can see what was the status of that, what were the control numbers, so we can get some detail there. Also, I see already that the supplier system has already generated an 855. So it received the 850 at 12:09, and just almost instantaneously, the 850 acknowledgement was created. So we can look at the status of the 850 acknowledgement. We can see what the message was that was generated, what the map was, and what endpoint that it was sent to. So we have that activity log of what's going on in the system. And so that's at the supplier side. So by now at the retailer side, we should see a receipt of that 855. So I'm going to look at activity, and now we can see this is the original 850 that sent to the supplier, and now this is the 855 is the acknowledgement that is received back from the supplier. So that right there just showed us having a XML move from here to there, get processed through that flow, and then an acknowledgement, an 850 is created, converted from JSON, exchanged, received, converted to XML, and then landed back in the ERP system. All that happens in seconds, and that's all a very structured type of information exchange. And so that's what we just saw, a standard-based message move through. Now let's take a look at an example. What if there was a validation error? What if that didn't conform to the EDI standards? And so EDI specifies that a purchase order must have a certain amount of characters. If that goes beyond that, it would fail validation. You'll remember that the validation was turned off upon the receipt. So you'll see it pass on the outbound, but then fail at the supplier side. So that's what we're going to see next, and how you can track any sort of messages that maybe need any sort of remediation or maybe failed any sort of message validation. So that message just got moved through. It was accepted. So now we're going to look here, and I'm going to look at the retailer side again. We'll look at the activity. You can see that now. My page load. Okay, now at 12:12, a new 850 was processed. Now let's take a look at the supplier side, because that's where the validation is set. Supplier and the activity. And you'll see that that last message that was received at 12:12 has failed validation because it didn't conform to the X12 850 specification for the length of the purchase order. So if I click it and I scroll, we can see that it's failed validation. And now we see that it's because there's a data element that's too long. So there's traceability to be able to see that, so that can get corrected and resubmitted. In fact, your activity view gives you view of any activity that goes on through the system, and you can choose the date and time range that you want to look across activity. You can look for any messages maybe that are overdue or that got rejected on an act. You can look at any that maybe failed or maybe had been delivered or processing or from a specific partner. So you have quite a degree of filtering and activity that you can look back across time and see an activity tracking for it. All right, so we've covered quite a few scenarios here. The retailer, what their setup is, what the supplier setup is for Partner Manager, how it can convert XML to a standards-based exchange, how that can be done quite easily. So you saw the configuration, the example, how that's done, and that can be done quite rapidly. And it works within the existing Mulesoft API framework of system and process APIs. All right, so now we're going to, let's see. I think that's it for the demo. I just want to wrap up a few things. First point I want to say is Anypoint Partner Manager does work with other EDI frameworks. It's compatible with other EDI frameworks, so it doesn't need to be Partner Manager on both sides. So I want to say that. Also, too, we looked at an 850. We looked at an 855 is what we saw in terms of the standard message types, and this works within an existing API-led framework. And you are familiar with Anypoint, or if you're not, here's just a quick snapshot of what all is part of the Anypoint platform. What we just looked at, what we just reviewed is this partner management capability within our management capabilities of the entire platform. So if you're curious about some of the areas of the platform or some of those are new, sign up for Connect or visit our website. A lot of good information. Because we have all these capabilities with one runtime and one management capability, and we support and run on any cloud, there's a lot of interest in Anypoint for these API-led as well as B2b Partner Manager integrations. Right, so now we've got some time for Q&A. Any questions on what you just saw?
If you have a question and you are successfully converted over to a presenter, you and ask away. Otherwise, I'm monitoring the chat window as well, so I'll relay any questions that are offered up in the chat window. Relay that to Mike.
Yeah, hi, this is Ankush. My question is like what you that was a really good demonstration. First of all, Michael, thanks for showing that. My question is specifically to like SFTP, like more like traditionally we have gone for managed file transfer approach with B2B. So how does that, like, is there any specific change? Like what you demonstrate is more applicable for SFTP. Is there anything specific need to be look into if it's like a file transfer or that kind of protocol?
So it would be similar, right? So the transports that you saw were over AS2. They can be transported over SFTP. And so it was just a transport specification, and the rest would remain the same. Or if you want to keep using a managed file transfer with Anypoint, that's fine too.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, really good. Okay, so how are we on time, Jim? We give it time? Yep. Okay, well, I have some questions then that I can post, and whoever is the first to respond is qualified for the wheel. Is that what it goes? Is that our plan? Jim has dropped offline.
So while Jim is away, Michael, I have another question.
Yeah.
So when we buy this Anypoint partner manager, so are those all the packages like Edifact or Rosenanet or Swift or X12, are they like provided out of box, or you have to buy them differently depending on like what you want to support, like a adapter kind of thing?
Both options. You can have both options. We have a configuration that you can get all the message, all the what we call B2b message packs, or you can get just those that you need individually or separately. So there's a few options.
Okay, thank
you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Okay, so I see a question about licensing, and the way that Anypoint works is Anypoint is a capacity based on priced and licensed around capacity. So that means that only the areas of the capabilities that you need would, based upon consumption, would be what would need to be licensed or paid for. And so that means if you need Partner Manager, then that entitlement can be enabled. If you and because of the capacity-based pricing, the pricing is based upon the amount of transactions, and so each is different. So we have a sizing effort that we can help you size how much capacity you might need, or what message packs or protocol and transport packs that you might need. So that's something that you'd want to reach out to your account teams at Mulesoft to get a specific price based upon the business scenario that you have and what types of data exchanges that you need supported. So that's how licensing would work based upon a sizing. So reach out to the account team you have, and if you don't know who the account team is, I can help you get connected to them. So reach out via LinkedIn. Happy to help. And looks like Jim is offline still. So let me see if I can call him. Okay, got a text saying that it's the network. So, all right. Yeah, happy to answer any other questions if there's any questions in the interim.
Do you have Swift support for banking and financial?
What kind of support?
Swift messages.
Swift messages. So that's something I don't know offhand. Yeah. So yeah, because I'm part of a industry group that's outside of financial services. I'm with our enterprise business group. So let me try and track that down. I don't know that offhand.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. So, my question on customizations. A lot of time, like in EDI, we do customizations specific to like the business. whether it will be identifiers, whether it will be with the format. So how is that supported on the platform?
Yeah. Okay. So you can specify the identifiers that map for a particular message flow. So that's done at each flow that you have. So that can be a partner or a flow specific configuration. So that's where you would set that. So where you saw that I created each partner and each flow for that exchange for the partner, you can specify those at either of those levels. You can set defaults so that they're what's used in that flow for each person, or you can have different versions for flows as well across partners or flows. Yeah, so you can do that. Yep. And the mapping, right? The mapping in terms of mapping from an XML to an 850 or to any message type, that's done with data weave. So all the skill and capability you have a data weave will automatically work on your mapping efforts to map from a data format to another. So good question. Okay. All right. So another thing is that we have a webinar about partner B2b Partner Manager that you might want to look if you want more information. So there's a link. Let me paste that into the chat. And if you want to see a webinar or additional information, there's a spot for it. Any information about our product, there's a lot of detail in the Mulesoft documentation. So let me paste a link to our docs. So if you're gonna learn about Partner Manager from our documentation, be sure you're looking at version 2. 2 is way different than 1. It's our newest and most capable. So there's the documentation for Partner Manager 2. So I pasted that into the chat. So those are some good sources for information. If you're curious what's changed recently, we have this where in the documentation you can look at what's new. Release notes. Let's see. Release notes by, I can look by feature, or I can look at it by dates. And so if I see what's released by date, then I can see what's changed in April. So what's this? Okay, you see that there's a 253, there's a 261. Where is it at? All right, let's look at it by product. So I can see it that way too. So there's a couple ways you can keep track of what's new and what's changing and what are some of the capabilities there. If you're curious on what the setup process is how to create the environment that you just saw, I walked you through some. However, if you'd like additional detail in terms of how that's set up, what is the architecture that's behind that, what you saw, you can look at this link here. So a lot of good information. All right. Well, I'm going to ask some of the questions for the prize. So let me get those questions ready. First question, and let me go ahead and put that, type it into here. So the way it works is the first right answers we get will qualify you for the prize. I believe that Jim is going to give out a training session. So let me go ahead and post that question now. So there's a question. What X12 document types were shown in the demo? Okay, good. Kalini nailed it. Okay, so we have an answer. Let me just get it. No, okay, so good. And so question 1. And then now question 2 is a thinker question. So question 2 is, what are 3 of those 6 trends causing the need for B2B modernization? So there were 6 that we talked about. So just we're gonna need you to list out three in a row. So let me see a response that's got three answers. Before I see cost optimization, that's a third of the answer. And then I see legacy B2B, that's a third of the answer. So anyone is gonna put two and one together, increase flexibility, responsive to apps, customer preference. Okay, so Akash, that's got 2. Time to spend. Okay, so I see the pieces, and anyone can string them together in a together with 3 in a row. Time spent changing. Okay, so Akash has 2 of the 3. Anyone else? Akash middle. Okay, wait. I think Ankush has got 3 in separately. Cost
yeah,
yeah.
I sent it in separately.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Ankush is has got those. All right. So yeah. So we're seeing a lot of customers want to improve their B2B for all those reasons. So good. All right. Now let's move on and move forward with the third of the questions. And let me get that. All right. So the third question is now posted out there. So that's interesting. Okay, so I posted the question, and then Shreyash is the first person to answer yes. After I posted my question, according to the way I see the stream, does anyone have it? And I realize that stream may be different than what y'all might see. So it looks that Shreyash answered right fastest. Any questions? Any objections? All right, so yeah, so the question is, does Partner Manager work with other EDI B2B platforms? Yes. So the demonstration showed Partner Manager at the retailer as well as the supplier. However, the supplier could have a different platform. So it could be, it could work with others. Okay. All right. Okay, really good. Okay, so that wraps up the material I prepared for y'all around Partner Manager. Let me see if
Guys, today I'm going to just do a very pretty high level overview of the Amazon Kinesis Anypoint connector. And what I want to show is a little bit about just kind of what it is, and then ways we might be able to use that, different use cases, and then take a look at a demo using the AWS Kinesis Anypoint connector and set that up. So with any luck, we'll get through this. So first, a little bit about background from a streams and streaming perspective. So streaming data is life as it happens. Right. So after the event occurs and the data is at rest, like in this data lake, we call this batch. And so this is looking back at data that's already happened. As the event is happening, the data is in motion, and this is streaming, and that it's like this this river, this stream running through here. In the ultimate IT architect movie, Matrix, we're shown screens with streams of characters and gibberish flying by, and all of it is representing life as it's occurring inside the Matrix. The people outside the Matrix can tap in and watch this data and somehow interpret who's close to heroes and where they need to run. Catch a line with 2400 modem probably to tap them out of the Matrix. Imagine waiting until the batch run at the end of the night to review whether Neo should have turned left or should have turned right. It's too late at that point. Well, businesses are now receiving massive amounts of data because of the growth in input sources. So streaming really gives businesses the chance to focus in, to process and analyze and make choices in real time based on what that matrix-like flow of data is telling them in the moment itself. So should I turn left or should I turn right? So Mulesoft has something called Repeatable Streams, and there's streams payloads in Mule. So are these the same thing? And no, they are not, obviously. But we need to take a quick look back in time to Mule 3 as just a refresher of where the Mulesoft repeatable streams fit in. So in this first example, you see a body payload coming into a file operation, followed by a second file operation. Well, the first file works and loaded with the payload that's coming in from the HTTP stream, but the second file does not succeed. It ends up creating an empty file because there's no content to write. That payload stream has been consumed. Likewise, in this next example, we're trying to split using scatter gather. We're trying to split the payload and simultaneously log the payload and write it to a file. We end up with some data in the file and some data in the logger. So having to do quite a few different things to make our Mule flows work like we wanted them to. Well, Mule 4 introduced these repeatable streams, and they allowed us to reuse data payloads for every Mule 4 component that returns either like an input stream or a streamable collection. Kafka, and there's a variety of that repeatable stream. File store stream is the default, but you can also do a repeatable in-memory stream. So what is Kafka? So Kafka is at its core a message broker with producers and consumers of messages. And Kafka Streams is really a collection of components that in containers that provide you the ability to ingest, process, and output data at scale. So we're talking massive, very large big data components operating at scale. But we're not here talking about Kafka, we're talking about Kinesis. Well, you can kind of think of Kinesis as a managed Kafka cluster. Now, the caveat here is that it is not Kafka, but it is Kafka. It's managed, so it's much easier to set up, where a Kafka container stream may take several many days or weeks to set up a full prod ready environment. Kinesis can be set up in a few hours. So AWS has 3 different flavors or 3 different varieties of a Kinesis stream or a Kinesis service. The one we're going to be talking about and focusing on today is the Kinesis data stream. But I wanted to mention the other 2 just as kind of background. Firehose, so Kinesis data streams was introduced back in 2014, and Kinesis Firehose came out in 2015. And what Kinesis Firehose does is it takes it allows me to ingest massive volumes of streaming data and load it into Amazon S3. You can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, this is pumping data into S3 or Redshift, and that lets us do later on analytics on that streaming data that's come in. And so you might imagine, like in Mulesoft, there is an S3 connector. So you could almost imagine using the Firehose to ingest massive stream data into S3 and then be able to turn that around and that to Mulesoft as a connector to S3. The third type of Kinesis stream is called Kinesis Analytics, and this came out in 2016. And what Kinesis Analytics allows you to do is to inject, to basically allow the developer to run SQL-like code against the ingress data and pump out the results as egress to either a Firehose or another data stream. With the results of that query. So you can imagine maybe kind of some reference data that you may want to join up to this stream data, but you're able to run this stream data query against windows of time that will tell you what's going on in the moment, right? With this massive bulk of data. So just to talk just a little bit about the high-level architecture, obviously you've got Kinesis Streams begins with a source, and this source can write into the Kinesis stream. The source can from anywhere that has connectivity to that EC2 instances or a client application, or in our case, like we're going to show today, it could be a Mulesoft connector that injects data records into this Kinesis stream. On the other side, you've got the stream itself broken out into shards. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And then finally, you have consumers, which can read from this data stream. And these consumers can be anything that can use these Kinesis libraries, or it could be a Mulesoft, as we're going to see today, a Mulesoft connector. So we're going to take a look at these at the data stream itself, and look at some of the specifications of a stream, because that's going to help us kind of identify, what some of the parameter settings we need to make might be, and just understand how the Kinesis stream works. So the stream itself is a named event stream of data records. We can make this durable for 1 to 7 days. The default is 1 day or 4 hours. And this stream is partitioned with shards. A data record is stored in the stream, and it consists of the main binary blob part. This is the data that that's being into the stream. It contains a partition key, and it contains a sequence number. Sequence number is a unique ID that is assigned by AWS when data record is written to the stream. Okay, so that's not something that we will write. The partition key, however, is used to determine which shard to insert the data into. So shards you can kind of think of as partitions. And this partition key, Amazon will take a M5 hash of that key, and depending on the hash value, that will direct that data record to go into one of the however many shards that you've created for this stream. One note about that partition key, you need that. This is a place where you're going to need to really kind of take a look and be careful about what partition key you choose, because if you pick a partition key that doesn't change that often, right, or is very often the same that's coming out of this bulk data, right, this big data feed. If it ends up being the same, it's going to end up going to the same shard. And the shard is really how Kinesis scales. And if you have it all going into the same shard, then, or same partition, then you end up with what's called a hot shard situation. And you're going to potentially you're going to potentially exceed the ratings for the various ingestion rates. So the ingestion, so a shard can ingest 1 megabyte of data per second, up to 1,000 data records per second. On the egress side, we can consume 2 megabytes per second. So you can see that we can actually end up consuming more or data faster from the shards, twice as fast, and there can be some contention there. And AWS has a function. We're not going to look at it today, but it's a function called consumer fan out, and this is where your AWS is able to expand those records or expand that consumption capability. All right, and the stream itself, I think I mentioned this, but the stream can be durable for 1 to 7 days, and you can get to that data. All right, So let's talk about possible use cases. So in one case, there's a scenario where you might have a website like Netflix where you're going to ingest all of the clicks from the user that, as they are navigating through movies, you might imagine, and looking at different things or clicking play on a movie. If we've got, if there's millions of subscribers to Netflix and each of these members are playing various videos at a particular time, then what Netflix is able to do, and they have some big data analytics that this is actually how they're using this. They're able to look at the user clicks in real time and adjust the trending now to show exactly what movies really are trending in your area at that point in time. So that's an example where in a real, like at a point in time with a stream of data coming in and the ability to look across that data, you're able to kind of make decisions. So another maybe obvious use case for real-time data is stock market and stocks. So looking for stock movement in a window of time with a large ingestion of data. You can look for biggest gainers or large volumes or price shifts over a current period of time, right? Looking back just over the past 5 minutes or looking within this within the data that's flowing through the stream at this point in time, you can then begin to make maybe some decisions about what to, about trades you might be able to make. A third use case is the Internet of Things. I mean, our houses are connected with all kinds of devices, whether it's Alexas or Google Assistants or even our thermostat control. So, the smart meters in electricity, in the electricity market, smart meters have really become a thing, and it's pretty ubiquitous in the power space, and all of these are feeding data back in massive bulk amounts. And so being able to look at this data and maybe even pair it up with home devices like your thermostats, that gives companies really a potential to observe in real time what's happening on the grid, the power grid, and what's happening with consumers. And this is actually these are use cases that are actually going on right now, like they're in use. Logging, not this kind of logging, this kind of logging. So logging allows you to pump massive, pump logs at scale into a stream, and then be able to observe across that stream to see what kind of capability or see what kind of outages you may be having, or be able to more quickly respond to error or situation because you're looking at that real time. All right, so are we doing on time? Okay, real quickly, I am up against it. Of the Kinesis connector. So I have just a very simple scenario. This is where we use the connector to put records into a stream, and then we use the connector as a source, and in this case, it's a listener operation to pull those records out of the stream. One note is that the application or this connector does not work in Windows anymore. This connector just came out back in November of 2020, and the most recent update is April 15th, which is what we'll be looking at today. But what happens is the connector actually downloads and extracts the Kinesis library, and that Kinesis library has been deprecated for Windows, and it no longer works in Windows. So that makes, that's something to keep in mind, because now you're going to, if you're on a Windows machine as a developer and you're used to using the debugger, then you're going to need to make sure that you are able to do more of a debugging type approach in Cloud Hub, which is what we're going to take a look at today. So let's first take a look at at setting up a Kinesis data stream. And I know we're a little bit long, and I'm sorry for the network issues earlier, but I'm going to create a data stream here. I'm going to show a bit more about it, but so in order to create a data stream, we just simply need to know the name of the stream and how many shards that we're going to create. Now I'm going to only create one shard. One thing to note, this is not free. This is not part of a free AWS tier, so you will have to pay. But so far, in doing all of my demo preparation, I'm about 33 cents. So it's not that much, but just be aware of that. So let's take, before I set up the stream in AWS, let's just take a quick look at Mulesoft. So in Mulesoft, I have created two flows, and one of these flows, or in both of these programs, I have a dependency on the Streams connector that I've brought in. I think most of you to add that to your dependency. We can talk afterwards if you don't. But you can see the operations that are available to us. We have a put record, which allows us to insert a data record into a Kinesis stream, and we have a listener that's able to retrieve or listen to the stream, and as data is dumped into the stream, this listener will receive that data. And we have a checkpoint, which kind of you can sort of think of the checkpoint a little bit like a watermark, and Kinesis uses the DynamoDB table to store that watermark information. So just real quick, let me take a look at the Mule Properties for, say, put record. And one of the things that I want to get is the stream name. All right, and I'm just going to grab that because now we're going to go off and build that data stream. It won't take very long, with any luck, to build this data stream. And we're gonna use one shard. As I mentioned, if you increase the number of shards, then you increase your capacity. So you really are scaling this based on how many shards you introduce into this data. So you can see 2 gives you 2 megabytes per second, 3 gives you 3 megabytes per second, and so on. But we're gonna start with 1, and we're gonna create this called the stock service stream. The use, just a very simple use case scenario, is I'm going to be pretending to receive a stream of stock messages, and you can see it's active now. So this is the Kinesis stream. It's already been created. One of the things you will need to do is to grab your security credentials from AWS and get a secret key, or get a AWS key as well as a secret key, and we're going to use that to insert into our setup. So now with that stock service, with stock service record created, or sorry, the stream created, we can come in here, we can take a look at what the configuration looks like, just real quick. And so obviously I said you've got to have your access key from AWS. I've secured this using a secure properties file, because you don't want anybody to have access to that AWS key. They can rack up a lot of charges for you if they and really mess up your life. Same with the password. You just want to access key secured, And we do that with secure basically that we're going to be using a secure properties configuration, and that whenever we look at the look up this data, we should extract it using a key that we've defined when we created the file. You have to specify what region the stream exists in. This is dependent on when you create the stream, you create it in a specific AWS region. And then there's some advanced functions in that you can configure. The first is this aggregation enabled. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I did want to mention the aggregation enabled. This basically allows you to take multiple data records. Remember that I said each data record is the data itself plus a partition key plus a sequence number. And this lets us aggregate a bunch of data records together and send that as a bulk load, basically, to the Kinesis stream. And then these aggregation let Mulesoft determine whether to do that either based on count, so a maximum count, or a specific amount of time. In this case, we have a buffer time of 100 milliseconds, right? And so that means that if we get data in within 100 milliseconds and it's the same date, then we will package it and send it off. Okay, so real quick, let me just show the consumer side. The listener is a source, and so this source we're able to. It's almost like it's listening. It's listening on that stream, the same name, and then you can decide whether you're going to listen to a specific shard or whether you're going to listen to all of the shards. And then you can decide whether you're going to listen to the latest position or not. So what I've done in this scenario is I've set up a HTTP endpoint where I can push data into the stream, and then the consumer will listen to that and store it in Object Store. And that's just to make it easy for me to create another HTTP endpoint to pull back what was stored in the store and take a look at it to make sure or to see, you know, what is coming in from the stream at that point in time. So I have already deployed these in Anypoint platform, and I will hopefully do this. So we've got the stream up and operating, and we are trying to load Anypoint, and my network is definitely slow. Mike, do you want to give me those names so that we can put on the list while we're waiting on Anypoint management to come back?
Yeah. I can paste those into the chat now. And yeah, and then there was a question about Swift and ISO 8583 types of messages, financial services types. So I did find there's a connector. We have Voltaine, something that I'm not familiar with. Anyway, so there's a link to it in the chat too for those who had that question.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
And then the three names of those who got my questions right are posted too. So Kalani, Ankush, and Sriyash. So you'll see their first and last names there. Yep.
Okay. Well, so I'm starting up the application off because I didn't have a stream, and so this is going to be starting back up, and I am going to drop these names in here, and that will let us have a few folks to win a prize. That's awesome. Okay. So we're still deploying. So while this is deploying, let me go ahead and bring this up and just show you a couple of things, hopefully quick. one of the things that I did initially is the AWS literature about Kinesis Streams talks about the message payload that you're pushing into the stream. So the message part of the data record is stored on the stream in a base 64 encoded data block. Okay, so what I initially did is I had DataWeave essentially convert that and decode from base 64. But then I got an error actually, because what's actually happening is the connector itself, the Kinesis connector, decodes that for you. So when you get the message out of the listener, that data is already decoded and ready to work with. So you know, I ended up storing it in 2 different data stores because at the time I was going to show, here's the base 64 version, here's the the decrypted version. But as it turns out, they're both in this decoded. They're both decoded. So let me just take a quick look. Hopefully they're all started. Okay. So what I'm going to show is that this is the Kinesis stream that the endpoint that I've created, and I've got two different AP calls to this. One is where I'm going to buy some Amazon stock, and the other is going to be where I sell. And obviously, like any good investor, I'm buying low and selling high. So that's great. And what I wanted to do is, because I wanted to insert in bulk, like we're talking about big data, so I want to make sure that, or I want to try to, instead of just one little record, I want to try multiple records. So I'm going to start up the Postman collection runner, and we're going to try running these 2 sells and buys, one sell and one buy, and I'm going to run that 4 different times. I want to make sure though that all of my back end stuff is working. So I'm going to do 1 just to be sure, and so I'm going to send this. I'm going to send an initial buy 20 units, and I send that in, and I should get a response back. I get the response back, and it tells me what shard ID the data went into. It gives me the sequence number that AWS assigned, and it tells me that it was successfully inserted into the stream. Okay, the delay was 100. Now that comes from Mulesoft, because we told Mulesoft in the connection we want to buffer for 100 milliseconds any kind of data that we're pushing in, right? Okay, so now I should be able to get that out of that decoded Kinesis payload. And so if I make that call, I actually have a lot here. Okay, that's not what I fully expected, because I've got other data that's out of the stream. This occurred at 1:17. So all right. So I'm going to go ahead and insert. I'm going to run the collection runner and iterate through these 2 HTTP calls 4 different times, and then we're going to take a look at what ends up in the stream itself. So if I come down here and run this data stream, then it blasts out 4 different calls to the buy and 4 different calls to the sell. And now if I come in here and take a look at what I'm getting back, well, that's the same data. So okay. Well, you can see it worked earlier, that I got a bunch of different data back. And so what I think has happened here, guys, is just on the listener, I think that it may be saying latest, but I don't have the, yeah. Well, I'm unable to show you that this came in as expected from the stream. So only seeing these records from the previous time. So that's what happens when you try to do a demo and you have network issues and all this. So apologies, guys. This is what's stored in my, I guess let me just take one quick look at my consumer application and look at the object store to see what see what data is in my object store, and of course it's running long. So okay, let's go. And so that kind of that's the demo and a little bit about kind of streaming data. Hopefully that was informative to everybody. And I'm not sure why I didn't get my result back from the key this time. It was working previously. What I'm going to try to do is let's do this. And let's I'm going to try this again, guys. One more time, I run all of these through. And then we'll try to get the payload from and of course I just blew away the object store. So a little bit of demo difficulty here, but let's go ahead and get to the fun part where we get to give away some stuff. So I'm going to ask a few trivia questions myself about streams. And am I still, let's see, okay, here we go. You please share. Oh yes, we will be sharing this recording. We've got a Mulesoft Meetup group YouTube channel, and so we're going to be dropping it out there, and we'll include that, and I'll send out an email, I guess, to everybody that attended today, and point to that. So my first question is the distribution of ingested data is deposited into what kind of component in the stream? What is the name of the partition in the stream, in the Kinesis stream? So that's the question. Great. So Rao, good job. That is the correct answer. It is a shard. So I'm going to add Rao Cod to this. As you got a lot of everybody's getting the right answer, so that's great. My next question is when setting up the stream, you can adjust how many shards are used in the stream. Now, every time you add a shard, you get an increase in performance. How much data can a shard ingest and egress? So, how much data comes in, or how fast can data come into the stream, and how fast can data come out of the stream? Okay, so okay. All right, so Rao, you can't answer because you've already got your name on here. But Akash has, okay, so one, you've got M, lower M, is this So I am going to assume that you are talking about megabytes here. So yeah, that's it. So you're right. So 2 meg per second. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's Akash that's got the right answer first. So 1 megabyte per second and 2 megabytes per second egress. So great job, Akash. And let's see. So Mike gave 3 questions. So let me see if I can come up with a 3rd question. So in the connector, in setting up the connector, what 2 factors, what 2 elements are needed from AWS in order to connect to your stream? Oh, Rao, you're giving away all the answers to everybody. Secret key and password. Right. Okay. So, Daraj, you were fighting for earlier. So this is Daraj. I'm gonna give you that one, and we'll spin the key. Okay. So the winner of the token will be whoever this lands on. So great job answering all of the trivia questions, everybody. And it looks like our big winner is Rao. Great job. All right, fantastic, Rao. That's great. You're going to be